I hope always, hope all of you physically healthy and mentally happy. I always request all of you to do the proper Dharma practice, particularly from the beginning of the Vesak month. One second, I have some problem here. Okay, thank you. I always urge and request all of you to do more practice in every hour daily life, particularly during the Vesak month. I hope all of you have been doing more Dharma practice during the Vesak month. So before we start our class, the first most important one, everybody have to be very relaxed, feel relaxed, sit very comfortably. Because before class, everybody bit busy. Therefore, our heart beat is, beating very fast. Therefore, first, everybody try to be very relaxed. Please sit comfortably wherever you sit it. And first, please rejoice yourself still alive, to able to see your friends and families, relatives, particularly have a good opportunity to study and practice the Dharma. And generate good motivation for becoming Buddha, to benefit all sentient beings. In order to be a Buddha, in order to free from all kinds of sufferings, we need to practice the pure path to achieve Buddhahood, to achieve the fully enlightened state. The pure path of the Dharma is look like very healthy medicine. When we take the healthy medicine, we can have only benefits. There won't be, it doesn't have any side effect. Likewise, when we follow the pure Dharma, the pure path, we always have a 100% benefits. We won't have any harmful things in our life. Therefore, in order to achieve Buddhahood, we must think, I want to follow the pure Dharma path. So when we follow the pure Dharma, the pure path, there's no culture, language, ethnic differences, just pure path. So in order to practice the pure path, we need a perfect teacher, perfect guru. Therefore, first everybody visualize the Buddha Shakyamuni according to the picture which is be used for few times for the class. So here no need to show the picture. Please visualize the Buddha from the Unisha. First you visualize the top of the Buddha head, which is we call Unisha, the pure blue color. Then next, visualize the Buddha face. With the two eyes, nose, lip, ear, and neck. Now slowly visualize the upper body of the Buddha. With the two arms, two hands. One is the meditation mudra, begging, holding the begging bowl on the left hand. Then the right hand, just visualize that the tip of the head just touch the ground. And visualize the aura around the head. Then the visualized Buddha is not just visualize from your mind. You might think the visualized Buddha, which is I visualize now, it is real Buddha. He can speak, he can give a teaching, he can walk around, he can give advice for us. You just think it's a real Buddha. Do 3-time prostration to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Second, please have a strong aspiration to practice the Dharma which is taught by the Buddha. Particularly, have a strong aspiration, practice bodhicitta and wisdom which realize emptiness. Do 3 times prostration to the Dharma. Third, please visualize the Sangha who already achieved the Arya path. Namo Guru Mbaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharamaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Guru Mbaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharamaya, Namo Sanghaya. Prostrate to the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. In order to achieve the Buddhahood, in order to free from sufferings, in order to achieve the lasting ultimate happiness, we need to practice the Dharma for many years, many lifetimes, maybe many eons. Therefore, we need the Guru, Buddha as a teacher, Dharma, the actual refuge, Sangha as our component to practice Dharma. Therefore, please take refuge to Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Guru Sharanam Gacchami, Buddha Sharanam Gacchami, Dharma Sharanam Gacchami, Sangha Sharanam Gacchami, Guru Sharanam Gacchami, Buddha Sharanam Gacchami, Dharma Sharanam Gacchami, Sangha Sharanam Gacchami, Buddha Sharanam Gacchami, Dharma Sharanam Gacchami, Sangha Sharanam Gacchami. So please take refuge to the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until we become a Buddha. Also make a strong, solid commitments, not going to give up to taking refuge to Triple Gem. Doesn't matter how many problems, difficulties come in our life, we always take refuge to Triple Gems, this life, next life, until we become a Buddha. Among the Triple Gems, the Dharma is the most important and actual refuge. Therefore, in front of the Buddha Shakyamuni, please meditate on the Four Noble Truths, the truth of sufferings, then origin of the sufferings, cessation, which is cease the suffering and the cause of suffering, and the path to achieve the cessation. Please meditate on the Four Noble Truths. First, the true truth, suffering and the origin of suffering, or origin of suffering and suffering. The true truths. Now you can link into the 12 links. First, ignorance. Ignorant cause volitions or karmas. The karma cause the third consciousness. The ignorance, karmas, and the consciousness cause the name and forms. Then the ignorance, karmas, consciousness, the name and form cause the sources, 6 sources. The 6 sources cause contract. Then the contract cause feelings. The 6 sources contract, feeling, cause, attachment or grasping. Then grasping, clinging, cause, becoming. Then the karma became very complete due to contract, feeling, attachment, grasping. Then the death comes. Then we take another rebirth. Due to having the birth, taking rebirth, having the physical body, then the aging and the death arise. Therefore, all sentient beings in samsara due to the first true truth. Then the samsara can be ceased if we are able to cease ignorance, karmas, attachment, grasping. Rest of the 11 links can be seized if we are able to stop, arise the ignorance. Ignorance can be stopped when we realize selflessness. Next, please meditate on the path and the cessation. While you are meditating, in between, if you cannot concentrate, when you have a lot of thoughts arise, then you should not do meditation on the Four Noble Truth, whatever. Again, you meditate on your breath. Try to have the neutral mind, nor positive, neither negative. Now, everybody commonly concentrate on your breath. Again, continuously meditate on the true truth, the cessation and the path to cessation. Particularly meditate on selflessness, impermanence. So when we meditate on impermanence of our own life, impermanence of your families and friends, impermanence of your belongings, your name and fame and position, or your healthy body. That means we are look like just for the 24 hours since we were born, we are always on the process of the death. Everything on the process to end. Something end temporarily, something end forever. For example, all our belongings, it can be end forever. They never come back again in our life. Never come back. So our life, for example, some of your parents, relatives, friends who pass away, who died, they end for short time. That means they just change this body. Then they already has taken another life with another physical body. That the physical body is different, little different than this body, but still he or she has the suffering, the actual suffering, the dukkha, the origin of suffering. Therefore, we can see if we're not able to realize selflessness, so we can be in samsara forever. Therefore, among the 12 links, ignorant need to be recognized. Then, in order to stop arising ignorance, you need to know, you need to realize the selflessness or emptiness. So when we meditate on the suffering and origin of suffering based on our own life, then this kind of the reality is for all sentient beings. Second, visualize all sentient beings around you. Particularly the beings in 3 realms. Visualize the hell being. When we visualize the hell being, then our suffering is look like nothing. When we visualize the hungry beings in the hungry animal realms, then our suffering of hungry and thirsty is nothing. So when we visualize the animal being in the animal realms, then our ignorance is nothing. Based on visualizing all sentient beings, please generate love, compassion, and kindness. Based on realizing the suffering, based on realizing the origin of sufferings. Love, we need to generate the mind in which all sentient beings be happy, have a cause of happiness. And wish all sentient beings free from suffering and cause of sufferings. And this moment, we can just wish them be happy. We just can, wish them free from suffering. We don't have the ability free them from suffering, bring them to ultimate state, because we ourselves is a very ordinary being. We also totally bound in samsara. We all ourselves totally go underground, go under all the afflict emotions. So how this moment we really can, benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, wish to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, based on love and compassion, please generate the awakening mind or the bodhicitta, the mind which is really, wish to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I wish to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, first, I need to do two very important practices. Purifying the negative karma, which is always become obstacle, always produce obstacle in our daily life, in particularly in our practice. The second important one, accumulating merit in order to practice continuously. If we have only how to purify negative karma, we can purify the negative karma through prostration, particularly through prostration to 35 Buddhas. If we don't accumulate merit, that means we just clean the house. The house is very clean, but it's very empty. Inside there's nothing. So when we accumulate merit based on purifying negative karma, that means the place is very clean, also have all kinds of beautiful decoration. So two important practices, very important for the beginner, purifying negative karma, accumulating merit. Because many problems in our life, sickness, or having, always having an unhealthy relationship between your families, your relatives, your boss, your worker, or having a lot of problem to achieve your achievement, most of it caused by the negative karma. In between, also we have a lacking the wisdom. We are lacking, the perfect knowledge how to be healthy, how to achieve our achievement, how to be successful person. Right? Therefore, two important practice, purifying and accumulating. So after we generate bodhicitta, or before we generated bodhicitta, we need to practice the 7 limb practices. Among the 7, first, prostration or accumulating merit, offering, to the fellow merit, offering things to other sentient beings is also part of practice for accumulating merit. Usually, as a Buddhist, or even though Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, who follow religion, they are very much happy to make an offering to the like a church, temple, synagogue, or mosque or masjid, or the monks and nuns. But when we think about offering things to the other human beings, we are not fully, we are not really ready to offer things to sentient beings, other human beings. Here, please don't forget what Shantideva said, Buddha and sentient beings are equal field of merit, equally, accumulating, equally field of merit or accumulating merit. Then why we discriminate Buddha and sentient beings? So when we remember Buddha, we feel very happy. So when we remember other sentient beings, we don't have the very particular happy feeling. Therefore, when we do making offering, also we must offer to the fellow merit, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, all the bodhisattvas and monks and nuns. Also we must offer to others if we can. Then the third one, purification. That the purification. Also we need to purify our negative karma. So there are so many different practices how to purify negative karma. The most important one, you just recite the Vajrasattva mantra. Then these two practices we must done in front of the fellow merit. Therefore, we need simple altar, set up all the offerings. We must have a Buddha's statue or painting or photo. We don't need so many pictures and statue and thangas. The most important, we need the statue or picture or thanga of Buddha Shakyamuni. Set up the 7 offerings. If you can, you just offer a light. Incense is very easy to make offerings. Then you need to take a vows. Right? Generate love and compassion, generate bodhicitta, do 7 limb practices, then take a vows. Usually there's 2 different ways you can take a vows. Somebody says, since today, I will take the Bodhisattva vows until I become a Buddha. So Bodhisattva vows, the Tantrayana vows, you can take since today until you become a Buddha. But the Patimoksha vows, you cannot take since today until we become a Buddha. We can take only since today until we died. Right? So today we discuss about how to take a vows. So before we take the Bodhisattva vows, we need to know the benefit of practicing bodhicitta. We need to know the benefits of cultivating bodhicitta. Very simple way, Adisha explained within the 2 paragraph. Simple, you can think, I cannot imagine the benefits of generating bodhicitta if the merit which is accumulated through practicing bodhicitta, if it's become a form, it's become the physical things, then the whole universe is not enough to contain the benefit of bodhicitta. Even though practicing bodhicitta can have a more merit than the making offerings, all the Buddha fields, according to the number of the Genji sent. That's make you really think, I cannot imagine how much benefit I can have when I practice bodhicitta. Right? Then you can have a strong aspiration to practice bodhicitta. So without taking the Bodhisattva vows, still, anybody can practice bodhicitta. But based on vow, practicing bodhicitta, can have a more, progress without the vows. Therefore, taking vow is very important. Even though everybody, us, everybody of you, you are not really killing, any human beings, or you always, able to killing even the insect, ants. So you're not killing, sentient beings. But without vows, just not killing is good, but you cannot have a that good benefits. Also, you are not stealing things from others. Then there's a big difference based on vows, not stealing things, without vows, not stealing things. Therefore, it's very important to take a vows. When you have a vows, when you have a thoughts to do bad things, then you're going to prevent to engage into the negative action because you have a vows. Right? Therefore, taking vows is very important. So today we discuss a little bit from the how to take the vows. So page number 18. Sorry, the stanza number 18, 1-8. Having developed the aspiration for enlightenment, constantly enhance it through concentrated effort to remember it in the end, also in other life, in this and also in other life. Keep the precepts properly as explained. Therefore, the first, having developed the aspiration of enlightenment, means we generate the aspirational bodhicitta. Aspiration means I want to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. When you think I want to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings, that time you have a thoughts, you have a mind, thinking of becoming Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. This is the actual aspirational bodhicitta. That means you are really aspiring, through listening, teaching, or through remember all the Buddha activities, through remember the benefit of bodhicitta. Then you yourself really aspiring to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. This particular mind we name aspirational bodhicitta. Therefore, you develop the aspiration of enlightenment, constantly enhance it through concentrated effort. Right? We really need very diligent effort to aspire yourself to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Then the next line, to remember in it, remember the aspirational bodhicitta or remember the bodhicitta through this life and also in other life. So when you have a vows, is always remember every day this life, also will remember in next life. Keep the precept properly. Keep the precept properly. Right? It is not just enough to take a vows. We need to take the precept, the vows properly. So sometimes we think it's so difficult to keep the precept. If you always control anger, hatred, you're not going to kill anybody, any sentient beings. If you control your attachment, you're not going to steal anything. If you control your desire, so your attachment, you're not going to have sexual misconduct, or you're not going to have a sexual, right? Therefore, control anger, attachment, desire. That means you really, you really keeping the vow properly. If you are not able to control your hatred and anger, still, if you think I keep the precept properly, you are not. Therefore, it's quite simple. Control your anger and hatred, control your desire and attachment. That means you're purely practicing the 4 root vows. Right? Keep the precept properly as explained. Without the vows of the engaged intention, perfect aspirational will not grow. Make effort definitely to take it, since you want the wishing for enlightenment to grow. Without the vows, right? Without the vows, the engaged intention, without vows, if you always wish to be Buddha, then this bodhicitta cannot really, develop furthermore, cannot really grow. Therefore, perfect aspirational will not grow. Make effort definitely to take it. That means first you must have a mind to wish to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. This is the mind which is wish to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Right? For example, very easy example I will give you. Let's say, you have a very strong aspiration, motivation to take care your parents or take care your relatives, take care one of your closer one. I want to take care this person until this person died. Right? You have a thoughts, but you don't have a commitments. You never promise in front of the Buddha. Say, okay, since today, I will take care. I'm going to make a promise that I will take care this person until the person died. So, can you see the differences? Having the thoughts, based on having the thoughts, then you need to make a commitments. Right? Therefore, it's a very common, you can see, I think everybody has been saying for many times, oh, you really like to do this, but you are not committed. Right? Therefore, not just wish to be Buddha to benefit all sentient beings, the mind which is I have now, I'm not going to give up until I become a Buddha. This means a commitment based on having the aspirational bodhicitta. Without the vows of the engaged intention, perfect aspirational will not grow. Make effort definitely to take it, since you want the wish for enlarging to grow. Right? That means you plant a tree, you put the seeds, soil, water. Next, you need a commitment. I will always take care of this tree until fully grow up. So you need to make a commitment in front of the Buddha, in front of your Guru. Going to say, Guru or the Buddha, since today, I'm not going to give up this kind of mind until I become a Buddha. This is what we call vows. Therefore, without the vows, without the vow of the engaging intention, perfect aspirational will not grow. make effort definitely to take it, since you want the wish for enlightenment to grow. Then how we should take a vows? How many types of vows taught by Buddha? So here, very important one, like the vows, the commitments, everything said by Buddha during the Buddha lifetime. So these vows, Bodhisattva vows, Tantrayana vows, Patimoksha vows, everything already set by Buddha. So nobody can change. Nobody can change. Even though, let's say, another Buddha, come on the planets, he or she also cannot change, not allowed to change the rules or regulation of the vows. Therefore, I will tell you very funny, story. I think I think 2006-7, me and group of monk, we visited most of the biggest monasteries and nunnery to do research. How we can have more monks and nuns. Why the number of monks and nuns is decline. So we visit many monasteries to do research. Then we visited the Rumtek monastery, one of the big, Kayupa monastery under the Karmapa, His Holiness Karmapa. So usually when we visit monastery, we discuss with the monks in the monastery. Also we discuss with the villager or the lay people, why you don't want to send your boys and girls to the nunnery and monastery. And also we ask many, the young monks and nuns, are you really, committed to live monk lifehood until you died? Then very, honestly, few monks said, if we have only 3 root vows, not killing, stealing, lying, I can be monk for until I'm died. The sexual is so difficult. They say, if we change the rules, not the 4 roots vow, only 3 root vows, because this means is very clear, the monk didn't know, this rules and regulation, nobody can change. Right? Therefore, how many types of, Patimoksha vows taught by Buddha? The next sentence, and the 20. Those who maintain any of the 7 kind of the individual liberation vows. 7 kind of individual liberation vows. This one is again very confusing, the words, individual liberation. Because in Sanskrit, there's a Patimoksha. Patimoksha. Pati means individual. Then moksha means nirvana or Buddhahood. Patimoksha. Then these Patimoksha words translate into Tibetan, we translate Sosor Tharpa. Sosor means individual. Tharpa means liberation. Domba means vows. Therefore, individual liberation vows. Sosor Tharpe Domba. What does mean Sosor, individual liberation? It doesn't mean when you practice the vow, only it benefit for you. What does mean individual liberation is very important meaning. For example, when you sick, let's say all your family affected by the COVID. All your family affected. So among the family, if you take medicine, the medicine cure only your sickness. It cannot be cure other family sickness. That means when you practice the vows, the vow liberate you, not other. Right? When you practice the vows help you to liberate yourself. But the practicing vow is not only benefit for yourself. That means individual liberation means when you practice the vow liberate you. The liberation not only for you, liberation for the liberation, Buddhahood for others. Right? Therefore, individual liberation. Pratimoksha vow, there's a 7 types. So as a homework for you, everybody go in Google, search what are the 7 liberation vows, 7 kinds. One is the layperson, right? Then the novel, the full audience is very popular. No, in between there's other like 4. Those who maintain any of the 7 kinds of individual liberation vows have the ideal prerequisite for Bodhisattva vows, not others. Therefore, there's a few orders. First, we need to take a prostration. We need to do prostration true respect to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Having respect, then we need to take a refuge. Right? After you have taken refuge, then you need to take one of the 7 Pratimoksha vows. That means you have a foundation, already have a foundation to take a Bodhisattva vows. Because you have a prostration, you have taken refuge, and then you have taken one of the 7 Pratimoksha vows. Then you have a solid foundation to take Bodhisattva vows. Without any of the 7 Pratimoksha vows, you cannot take Bodhisattva vows. Then, without Bodhisattva vows, you cannot take Tantrayana vows, Vajrayana vows. But in Tibet, there's 2 different lineage or 2 different views. Many masters said without taking any of the 7 Pratimoksha vow, still you can take Bodhisattva vows. Or many masters says you cannot take Bodhisattva vows without having any of the 7 Pratimoksha vows. So I follow the second one. In order to take Bodhisattva vows, you must take one of the 7 Pratimoksha vows. Then you can take the Tantrayana vows. Right? Please remember this one. Those who maintain any of the 7 kinds of the individual liberation vows have the ideal, have the foundation have the precondition, the Bodhisattva vows, not others. The Tathagata spoke of the 7 kinds of the individual liberation vows, mainly from the the 3 baskets, particularly the Vinaya baskets, individual liberation vows. The base of this is glorious pure conduct, said to the vows of fully ordained person. Among the 7 vows, which is the best which is the perfect to, take the Bodhisattva vows. Tathagata spoke of the 7 kinds of the individual liberation vows. The best of this is the glorious pure conduct, said to be the vows of fully ordained person. Among the, there are 7 kinds of vows. That means there's a 7 kinds of person who has taken 7 kinds of vows. Among the 7, the best is the full ordained vows. Best is the person who taken the full ordained vows. Then 22, then how we should take the individual 7 kinds of vows. According to the ritual described in the chapter on the discipline in the Bodhisattva stage, take the vows from a good and well-qualified spiritual teacher. So many people request me to give a vows, layperson vows, or so vows. I said, no. You can just take a refuge from me. I just ask you how to take a refuge to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the refuge vows. I'm not going to give you any vows because it's very clearly here said, take the vows from a good and well-qualified spiritual teacher. Good and well-qualified spiritual teacher. Therefore, we must take the individual Pratimoksha vows, Bodhisattva or Vajratantrayana vows from the qualified teacher. Therefore, next time we will study, what are the qualifications of the teacher. Then second, also we need to study what is the qualification of the students, right? Understand the good spiritual teacher is one skill in the vows ceremony, who lives by the vow and has the confidence and compassion to the bestow it. You can also say one is the teacher need to know how to give a vows ceremonies. Also, who lives by the vows, not just taken in the one time, then the broken vow, then give a vow, or they continuously have to maintain the vows and has the confidence. That means they must have confidence, they must have a compassion to the disciples. You already explained a few qualifications. However, right? So here what I want to say to you, it is very, very important to follow the qualified teacher, guru, master, not just have a name. Particularly, many of you very much happy to follow, Tibetan like Rinpoche. When you see Rinpoche, when you hear about Rinpoche, you believe, oh, the Rinpoche is like a Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Then you just blindly follow the Rinpoche. Even though the Rinpoche, doesn't have any qualification as a teacher, still you think, oh, he or she is very important, very special, I want to follow. This is totally mistaken, wrong. You have a wrong idea, wrong thoughts. Therefore, when you meet a Rinpoche, when you meet a, like a Geshe, first you need to collect some information. Otherwise, you just blindly follow the teacher who doesn't have any qualification, at the end, you won't develop any good qualities. Also, your good qualities already you have going to decline. For example, very simple example. Right now we have in Singapore we have 3 kinds of vaccines. Already we have one vaccine. We're not able to use it because we don't know the qualities. Without knowing qualities, we use the vaccine. The vaccine can be very harmful, maybe very harmful instead of benefits. Therefore, follow the teacher is more dangerous than the taking that the vaccine doesn't have any informations. Therefore, everybody try to find the qualified guru. Doesn't matter the guru Tibetan, Chinese, Malay, Singaporean, Thai, Chinese, doesn't matter where the person is come from. Doesn't matter the person is look like ugly or beautiful or attractive. We need to know the qualification. The qualification is mainly the mental quality, not the physical qualities. Right? Please try to follow the qualified teacher, qualified guru. Then we always happy to analyze, investigate about the teacher, which is perfect, but we never investigate ourselves. Am I a good student? Am I a good Buddhist? Am I follow the perfect Buddha? We never, pointed ourselves. We always pointed outside. Oh, this geisha no good, this guru no good, this sifu not good, this nun not good. We always pointing out others. We never pointing ourselves. If you point, if you point finger towards you, if you ask, am I a good Buddhist? The answer, no. Am I a good human being? The answer may be no. If I purely follow Buddha teaching, answer may be no. Because we never, pointed ourselves. Should not only point at other, also point ourselves. Then we can find, how many qualifications we have. Still, how many qualifications I need to, get. So we will talk next time based on the Lamrim. Then 24. However, in case you try to find the qualified teacher or spiritual master, but cannot find such as a spiritual teacher, I shall explain another correct, procedure for taking the vows. This is, I think, very relevant for us, particularly living in Singapore, different countries. I shall write here very clearly, as explained in the ornament of the Manjushri's Buddha Land Sutra. How long ago, when Manjushri was Ambaraja, he arose intention to become an enlightened man. So now telling, the history, how we should take Bodhisattva vows without the spiritual master, without qualifying the teacher. Therefore, like a Manjushri, the one time when he was, I think, Ambaraja, then he already generated the aspirational bodhicitta, but he was looking a qualified spiritual teacher who can give him the Bodhisattva vows. So he could not find. Then what happened? In the presence of the protectors, protector referred to Buddha Shakyamuni, not the Dharma protector. In the presence of the protector, I arose the intention to gain full enlightenment. I invite being as my guest and shall free them from second existence. So this one I will explain next time. The next class we will study 3. 1, qualification of the gurus, qualification of the disciples or students. Then we will learn how to take Bodhisattva vows in front of the Buddha Shakyamuni's picture, statue, and painting. Right? Okay. So now we have a time for Q&A. We have about 20 minutes.
Ishila, good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a question from the Chinese sites.
Please.
The question is, if we take Praktimoksha vows and due to anger and conduct bad action, totally break the vow, how should this be remedied? Thank you, Geshe-la.
The breaking Pratimoksha vow is not depending on, engaging into 10 negative actions based on anger, attachment, desire, whatever. Among the 10 non-virtues, killing, right? First, 3 from the body, bodily 3, killing. Based on anger, if you killed like a sheep, cow, animals, like a fish, like the sea creature, you're not going to break the first vows. If you killed human being or become a human, then you break the first vow. Killing refers to the human being and becoming human. Right? It's very important. Human and becoming human. In Tibetan say mi amirchapa, also in the Sanskrit. What does mean human? As we know, fully developed like a person. Becoming human means these days many people do the abortion, clear the baby, like a 2 or 3 months. And certain one you cannot, and there's rules. If you do you ask your wife to do abortion, or if you ask, of your life partner to do abortion, mean you are killing human being, which is already become as a human, not fully develop all the organs. Then you're going to, destroy the first vows. Doesn't mean you destroy the vows. Doesn't matter you're stealing or not. Then stealing, right? For example, you are walking around the forest. Somehow you saw a mango tree or apple tree has a good mango, good apple. If you take the mango, are you stealing or not? No, I not consider you are stealing, because in the forest, the apple, mango is not belongs to anybody. Then let's say, you are very hungry. You are very hungry. So somebody has a leftover food. The person is fully full, so he left the food somewhere that the person left. If you take the leftover food, you're not going to consider stealing food, because the leftover food doesn't have any value, right? So when you steal things which is very valuable, which are value, that means you break the vows. Then lying, generally lying is very bad. If you lie to your friends or family, husband, wife, children, finally nobody trusts you. It doesn't mean you break the vows. Lying is very particular. It's particular for the monks and nuns. Also, in the Chinese culture, many, maybe they really can see the Buddha or not. Many, monks and nuns, they have been saying, oh, I saw Amida Buddha, I saw Manjushri, so and so. If the person didn't see the Buddha, they tell the disciple, I met Manjushri, I see Amida Buddha. These are big lying. If you have this kind of lying, then you destroy the vows. Also, you don't have a bodhicitta. If you pretend to your student, I have a bodhicitta, I realize emptiness. This is a big lying. If you have this kind of lying, you destroy your vows. Based on anger, if you kill insect, you do, someday you need to lie. There's no any option. There's no choice. For example, very simple example I'll give you. Let's say between the couple. So due to certain reason, or the husband have a physical relationship with other lady. If the husband tells the truth to the wife, there's a very dangerous to destroy the family relationship. Then the husband lied to the wife, or the wife also lied to the husband. This is not considered, cause to destroy your vows. It's still lying. Also, there's a reason to hide the lying, but you're not going to destroy the vows. Got clear? Who asked the question?
Yes, Geshe-la.
Okay.
There's a further question. This person says, sometimes at work, he go to work and do not do the actual work, so he's lazy and still taking salary. Is this stealing and lying? If it is, how to remedy it?
Isa, definitely you are, lying, or you are, taking money you're not supposed to take. Still you are, indirectly you're stealing money from the company. Yeah. So therefore, I said many times, we have to survive. If you want to die, up to you. If you commit suicide, up to you. Nobody really can stop you. Somehow, since we were born, we have to survive. How to survive is up to you. You want to survive happily? You want to survive with a lot of guilty feel. If you want to survive very happily, then you walk, happily for the company, happily for the restaurant, wherever you walk with a happy mind. Don't deceive the boss. Don't deceive your co-workers. Walk very happily, purely. So when you receive your monthly salary, you feel very happy. You don't have any guilty feel. So when you spend the money for your family, you feel very happy. When you buy things, you feel very happy. Otherwise, you're not, you've been very lazy. You want always try to deceive your worker, boss, whoever. Every month when you receive the salary, you don't have a sense of feeling. You have a guilty feeling. When you spend the money for your girlfriend, boyfriend, or your family, so wife, husband, you don't have a sense of happiness. You feel very guilty. That means you are surviving with a guilty feeling, then you cannot be very happy. Right? There, I said, when you go for, work for company or work for any kind of job you have, you should not think I'm going for work in order to earn my salary. You just think in order to benefit all sentient beings, generate compassion, love, bodhicitta, go for work. So how long you really can do this kind of excuse? It is very difficult you have. Therefore, the best remedy, I want to survive. I want to survive happily. I want to have a healthy life. Whatever earn money, I try to earn with a pure mind. Then is, I think, the best remedy. Always think, I'm going to work for this and that in order to benefit all sentient beings, in order to have a happy life, happy family. Yes, I think it's very common. Sometimes there are no choice because you, for example, weekend, you are so busy with your family or you sleep too late. If you sleep maybe 1 or 2 a.m., when you wake up, you don't have enough sleeping, then you went to the workplace, you feel so tired. Therefore, sometimes, it's okay, you can do some, kind of deceit, but you should not do always. It's very bad for you, bad for others. Then you always have a guilty feeling. Guilty feeling. For example, I'm in TBC, right? I'm not saying, I'm doing good. I always work for TBC with a pure mind. I'm living here, I'm sitting here. Whatever I do very perfectly, purely with a sense of happiness. Killing TBC, throw the trash bin, set up the flower, whoever visit, very welcoming them, sense of happiness. Then I don't have a guilty feeling. I don't feel this is my, kind of duty, my kind of work. I thought this is my daily practice. Therefore, you feel very happy, right? Therefore, we need willingness. The willingness, we need compassion, love towards the company. You need to love your work. Doesn't matter you have a good job, bad job, you need to love your job. Then there won't be any problems.
Thank you, Kishila. There is another further question. May I ask, Ambaraja, is that a Buddha? Is that a Buddha that in our perfect aeon?
Vajra, I think this, can you repeat the question one more, please?
May I know, is Ambaraja a Buddha that present in our perfect aeon?
I really don't know.
Buddha.
Also use Ambaraja. Yeah. So this one, again, I think I'm not, really criticizing the person who asked question. Here, the main point, what you need to know, I want to practice bodhicitta. I want to take a vows. So far, I don't have a qualified master around me. Still, I want to take a vows. How should I take a vow? You just take a vow in front of the Buddha statue, painting, or you visualize Buddha. You take a. You need to know the point. You no need to know who was the Vajra or Bazara who. You know to know this. If you want to know, it's good. This is not the main point. Main point here, without having qualified guru, still you take a. You can take. You can accept, you can take the Bodhisattva vows. How? Then tell the story. Manjushri, when he was ordinary beings, he generated bodhicitta. He really wanted to take a vows, so nobody around him who can give a vows. Then he took the vows in front of the Buddha's statue painting. So you need to know the point. I really don't know who was the, Vajra. So I will study if you want. Next time I will tell you.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So Mu-Ching, please unmute yourself and pose the question. Thank you.
Geshe-la, many people are asking questions, so I'll make my question very short, okay? Geshe-la, appreciate your teaching is always relevant to the modern world and also to our local Singapore context. So I'm just making a request for next class. Can you talk more about the quality of students? Because in Lam Rim, there are like three qualities of the students. And then what I'm asking you is but for modern time, maybe we need more quality as a student than stated in Lam Rim, because modern people are more busy. Also, a lot of us come from very complex. Many family broke down, and people grew up in very unhappy family, and we have a lot more kind of complexity in our mind. So, from your experience teaching in Singapore, what would you think that from the student side we need to develop in order to be a better better to receive pure Dharma teaching? That's my request.
Yeah, thank you so much for your suggestion.
Mm.
Yes, many people said, oh, we are in the modern society, we are so busy. Actually, we've been busy ourselves. You can have a lot of free time to study Dharma. Okay, so I will, explain all the quality next time definitely. Also, I will, based on my, experience living in Singapore, I can give a few suggestions. Look, we said we've been so busy, right? Actually, we've been busy ourselves with a lot of unnecessary things. Usually, what time we woke up? 6:30, 7. We've been so busy with the sleeping. Right? Then, so we didn't wake up early morning. We woke up very late. Then we are so busy with taking shower, so busy, eating breakfast with a very busy mind that you rush into your workplace. You have to reach there on time. And the workplace, of course, you have to be busy. You have to, finish your work, how much they give. But in between, you are so busy chatting with your friends, all the YouTube or Messenger, so just busy. You're not busy, really busy with your work. You're busy with other things. After finish your work, you just come to your home, take a shower, have a snack or drink or juice or tea, coffee. Then why you are busy for rest of the timing? Again, busy with the unnecessary things. Actually, the modern time, people have a more relaxing time than the ancient time.
I see.
Actually, so I was born in Zanskar. We didn't have a holiday. We don't have a concept of holiday, break, no. 12 months, totally busy. Summer, everybody busy growing the field, collect the grass. So more busy than the Singaporean. Still they have enough time to study Dharma. Actually, we really need to know how to control our timing. Because living in Singapore has a lot of opportunity, because you are living in very, very convenience area. You don't need to go buying things for a few kilometers, walk a few minutes, you can get our food, you can have a supermarket, you have a hospital, you have a school, very convenience. But we've been busy ourselves with very unnecessary things. Today I want to say this. Yeah. So definitely I will think about your suggestion for next class.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So we have quite a number of questions on queue.
Okay.
Next from Christine. There is a difference in committing a negative action with and without vows. Is there a similar effect with positive action as well?
Yes, there's a big difference. Reciting, 100 times Mani Padme with the vows, without vows. The result is different. The karma is different. Yes, there's a big difference. Therefore, among the three mind trainings, without vows, without precepts, still you try to do the meditation really cannot. Therefore, yes, with the vows, without vow, there's a big differences between engage into action. Also, the action has a different, I think, different levels. And this one I would simply say yes, there's a big difference.
Is Pratik Moksha vow same as 5 layman vows?
I ask all of you to do homework. Lay person vows, usually we don't use the lay person, okay? When you look at the actual tradition, you read in Chinese books, we don't use the lay person. We use, I think householder vows. Householder vows. Then, ordained vows. Yeah, we don't, traditionally we don't say lay person. We say householder vows. We typically say Kimbe Domba. Yes, a lay person vow, one of the seven. One of the seven. The lay person, we say householder vows, then novel vows, full ordained vows. Then within the novel, there's two kinds. Also full ordained, there's two kinds. Then particularly nuns, between the novel and full ordained, there's a kind of another vows they have to take. Therefore, I ask you to do homework. What are the 7 Pratimoksha vows? What are the vows is each of the person? For example, lay person, there's a 5. Then the novels, they're 36 or 37 or 36. Full ordained monks and nuns, there's a difference. So please everybody do homework about the 7 kinds of Pratimoksha vows. So each has how many vows. Then you can think which one you're able to take. Next question, please.
Earlier on, Geshe-la, we talked about the abortions, right?
Yeah.
What shall a couple do if doctor declares the fetus is abnormal and doctor advised not to keep?
So, this one, if you have a vows, right, now you have 2 options. You got the 2 options. You want to break the vows, or you want to, keep the vows. It's a very serious kind of, it's a very critical kind of, very difficult situation. Because without knowing, you already have like a little baby, and the baby is not normal. It's a very big, kind of question. If you give a birth to the baby has a lot of kind of, sickness or problem. If you don't give the birth, you need to do abortion. If you do the abortion, right? Abortion, you break the vows. I tell you, very real kind of, discussion between me and Geshe Sanduk. Many of you know Geshe Sanduk, who stayed in Singapore, I think, more than 4 years, maybe 2 years here, more than just 2 years. So sometimes we discuss about, about the family life. He said, I don't want to be, give up the monkhood. I want to be a monk. If I become a lay person, I don't think I can, take care of the family. So he said, I'm always concerned or worried after I married with someone. If we have a disability child, what should I do? he would think, I should kill the baby or just keep the baby. I keep the baby, I can take the baby until I'm died. After I die, who will take the baby? The baby is totally disability baby, cannot eat, cannot walk, right? Then he said, when I think about that, I feel so scared. It's really serious. For example, the doctor told, oh, it's the eggs or the baby is very, unusual things, cannot be very healthy baby. Then what should we do? So which is, now you need to, think which is better, abortion or, keep the vows. If you keep the vows, you cannot do the abortion. If you do the abortion, you cannot have a vows. Now this one, I think you need to decide. I cannot say this is better, that is better. I cannot say. I have experience. The Venerable Rigzin. His brother has a 2 child. One child, when she was born, she was very normal, didn't have any problem. After a few months, the baby became disability. Then second baby born with a disability. Now the both parents 24 hours busy with the taking care of these 2 babies. Cannot walk, cannot talk, cannot eat well. How long the parent can take care? After they died, who will take care of the baby? Right? When I saw this one, I really confused. What should I say, about abortion, not abortion? This one I really don't know. Even the Buddha lifetime, there's a concept about abortion. The Buddha said should not, but they never say, because that time they didn't have a technology to know the egg is normal or usual or unusual. If there's that time they have a technology, then Buddha definitely say should do this and that. I don't know. Or put it out. So
Yeah. Okay. So next question. As a layperson, I am likely to break my vows, knowingly or unknowingly. Is breaking vows the same as destroying our vows?
Yeah, it's same thing. Many people break the vows without knowing, because when they meet, like a master or Rinpoche, and your friends or somebody expire you to take a vows, then I knew, because then you just go to meet the Rinpoche, say, give me the vows. The Rinpoche never check, oh, you really want the vows? Can you maintain the vows? They give vows. Then they just feel very happy, oh, I have a vows. They don't know, how many kind of vow I must practice. Then they engage all kinds of action. Then later notice, oh, I should not supposed to do this. So many people break the vows without knowing, because they take the vows without having any knowledge. If you know the vows, how many vows you have taken, then when you break the vow, you will break the vows with the knowing. So another very nice story. I think there's a boys before they are just boyfriends and girlfriend. The girlfriend usually go to ABC, attend the Dharma class. Then the girlfriend expire, the boyfriend, oh, you come with me, attend the Dharma class and take a vows. The boyfriend said, no, I don't want to take a vows. The girlfriend said, oh, you're not taking vows, I won't be married with you. Then the boyfriend has taken the vows with the pressure from the girlfriends. He just attended the ceremony, take a vows, right? Then later he noticed, all the vows he need to practice. Then he break all the vows. Then he feel very shameful since he stopped to go to ABC to attend the Dharma class. Yes, there's a lot of funny story. Yeah, so it's same thing, breaking vow, destroying vow is same thing. Knowing or knowingly, without knowingly. Yeah. Like, you are eating poison without knowing, when you eat the poison, you will sick. So when you engage the action, then you break the vows. Okay, finish this question, right?
Last question.
Okay.
Is the Buddha Sakyamuni an ordinary person 2006 years ago because he achieved enlightenment in one lifetime?
Okay. This one, there's in the Buddhist, tradition, we have two tradition, Theravada and Mahayana. From the Theravada point of view, Buddha Shakyamuni was born as a princess, right? Prince, Siddhartha, prince, very ordinary person, born in the noble family. Then slowly he practiced for many years, become a Buddha. From the Mahayana point of view from Mahayana, Buddha Shakyamuni was born on the planet to show the path, teach the Dharma for all sentient beings. He already became a Buddha in previous life. Before he was in the Tushita, he come down on the land. Yet there's two different views. And Milarepa is a commonly he was ordinary beings. Then he became a Buddha within one lifetime. Also, we have many other Tibetan, practitioner who become a Buddha within one lifetime. Yes, there's two different views about Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay, thank you so much asking all the question. Also, thank you so much for attending the class, particularly during the Vesak month. I always, say happy Vesak month. Remember the most three important activities of Buddha Shakyamuni. When we remember Buddha Shakyamuni was born, we must feel very happy. Due to him, we knew the path, how to free from suffering, how to achieve Buddhahood. So when we remember, achieving enlightenment, becoming Buddha, we must have a strong aspiration. I want to be Buddha as Buddha Shakyamuni. When we remember, his, parinirvana or passing away, we must remember, I'm just ordinary person. I can be died anytime. Buddha Shakyamuni, he passed away even after he became a Buddha. Remember impermanence and death. And always practice the Dharma, particularly, apply the Dharma when you have a lot of difficulties and problems. Particularly when you have a lot of negative thoughts, please practice the Dharma. And thank you so much. And I have a happy Sunday. So we do the dedication prayers as usual. Shaje wadang jujen sheba dang jesu yirang guljen sowa deke wa chunse dake chisa tamje zobe changju chenpo changju semjo rinpo je ma ye panang ge gyu je gewa nyamba me ba kone kondo pewa resho jide yambe yagan tangje do mine chune zaze zade Madru muge gupa gunje ne tsire ne me dege den bar shu.